Good morning, respected panelists and viewers. I'm 𝗙𝗃 from Team 𝗙𝗦𝗊𝐻𝗀. Welcome to the 18th episode of 𝗙𝗦𝗊𝐻𝗀 webinar, Key to Lockdown, powered by Deceuninck and Godavari Paints. The key to lockdown is staying connected. I also take this opportunity to thank and express our gratitude towards everyone working at the front line and helping us stay safe. Our doctors, police forces, 𝗙𝗢𝗇𝗏 workers, people providing us with continuous supply of food and milk, our volunteers, government officers, and everyone risking their lives for us. There is a very special announcement. BJS, 𝗙𝗑𝗏𝗏 and 𝗙𝗦𝗊𝐻𝗀 forged a strong partnership in Mumbai to battle COVID-19. BJS started mobile dispensary seva in Pune on 1st April and have scaled it up to 74 dispensaries to various cities in the country. They have successfully treated over 1 lakh patients by providing doorstep health checkup, facility and treatment along with free medicines. And I must tell you, the entire checkup process is contactless. They're using thermal meters to check the temperature. They're using another meters to check the pulses. All the three organizations, that is BJS, BJS, 𝗙𝗑𝗏𝗏 and 𝗙𝗦𝗊𝐻𝗀, have pledged to come forward and start maximum number of mobile dispensaries for the benefit of citizens of Mumbai amongst this pandemic. Within a week, we plan to start 50 dispensaries in Mumbai and then 50 more to make it 100 very quickly. We need support from all those who represent different stratas of society for this humongous project. Thank you so much. I also request Dharmesh sir. Sir, can you please say something about this, about our efforts and what we look forward from the attendees and overall participants and members?
Thank you everyone. Just to give a quick 2-minute brief. Clearly, one of the big worries that the entire health system of the country has is that if the cases increase, the existing systems are going to get overwhelmed. The simple thought process behind this initiative was that if all the minor ailments can be taken care of at the doorstep, they don't come and overload health. And luckily, 1 lakh patients over the last 20-25 days in various locations of the country have been treated, and we have a very similar target in mind. So on a daily basis, one dispensary can treat about 150 patients, and the target treat about anywhere between 250,000 upwards patients in the city of Mumbai. Substantially help the existing system. 2, we also screen people who are COVID suspects to those patients. Then we are also experimenting with mobile X-ray clinics, so that again patients can be screened even for their X-rays. That's something we are still working on. But again, as I said, it's just a simple initiative to help the existing system. I think is worth doing and experimenting, and we look forward to this initiative. Once again, thank you. Over to you, 𝗙𝗃𝗏 and the team. Vinita, over to you.
Vinita, yeah.
Morning everyone. Welcome to the 18th webinar that 𝗙𝗦𝗊𝐻𝗀 is hosting. I must say, I think it's been a wonderful knowledge share across all webinars, and especially this one. I think as more time we spend in the lockdown, we kind of get to that pass on normal. And what we are seeing in every interaction, the human element of how to take care of our people, how to keep people safe, what needs to be done to reinstill confidence in every workplace of ours and every facet of our work is very curious of. And that's how this entire session has been conceived. It's called Social Distancing Measures, the New Normal in Real Estate Post-COVID. We are trying to see how we can cover best in terms of how do we ensure our sales offices are well equipped to reopen, how our offices are well equipped to reopen, as well as how our sites where maximum amount of our workforce shall be there will be taken care of going forward. And it's extremely heartwarming to have a fabulous panel with us, starting off with Anshuman Magazine, who is the chairman and CEO of CBRE India, Southeast Asia, Middle East, and Africa. I think Anshuman has been a very, very large support to all of the 𝗙𝗔𝗔 webinars, and thank you, Anshuman, for joining. We have Mr. Pranav Mishra, Head Liabilities, ICICI Bank Limited. Pranav takes care of the bank branches across India, as well as the BKC branch that they have, and the BKC office that they have. And it's important to actually hear from someone who's right now in essential services and is also taking care of the branches, and branches are working with about 1 lakh people coming in. So we thought ICICI is the best bet to kind of come in and give us that. We have Mr. Rajesh Pandit, who is the Managing Director of Global Workplace Solutions Property Management India, Middle East and North Africa of CBRE. A very good perspective going to come in from him in terms of how is it that we're going to manage our office buildings, malls, retail plazas. They will also bring in their experience from China, when China reopened, and how their offices went back and what measures were taken over there. We have Mr. Prashant P.V, who's Director Operations and Technology, Shapoorji Pallonji and Company Limited. The biggest element of our businesses is the labor force, which is going to come back and start constructing. What do we need to do to take care of their psyche, and what do we need to do to ensure that when we restart our sites, our labor is well taken care of and they are well protected at all points in time, is something that Mr. Prashant P.V is going to touch. With this, I will open the session, and I will first call on Mr. Pranav Mishra, who's Head Liabilities, ICICI Bank Limited, to share with us how is it that essential services even today are working at their capacities, and their branches are being taken care of. Pranav, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Binita, and thanks, 𝗙𝗧𝗏, for extending this opportunity to ICICI Bank in terms of talking about how exactly we have dealt with it. We are amidst it, and I'll say that we are into lockdown 2.0. But fact of the matter is that from around 1st of March, we could sense that yes, we are up for something which can be really a pandemic till it was declared as. We have 6,000 offices across the country. We have what you call as, we are also operating in 15 countries. So we had a lot amount of, on an average in a month, we have 50 to 60 employees traveling all across the globe. And that's where we were saying that, do we need to prepare ourselves better, because where it will come from, what it is going to impact, and for customers, it should not at all go and impact. And that to employee cannot be the source, or my partners cannot be the source of. So around 1,500 plus cities we are operational. We have around 7 lakh customers who walk into our ATMs, and we have around more than 3 to 5 lakh customer, depending on the business day, walking into our branches. So of course, banking is declared as an essential service, and then you have what you called as 10 to 15 lakh touch points. And since this was all about social distancing, and we being one of the providers which has this kind of thing, what we clearly defined was that when banking, as because you have to keep money in motion. So what bank plays a big role is in terms of ensuring that the payments are going, the checks are getting cleared, the cash is there in the economy. Families of the customers, if they are in different cities, are provided with all possible things, and procurement of essential supplies are there. Keeping all that in mind, we created what you called as a BCP team of top management to talk about in terms of morning, evening, take a download from what's happening at a field force level. One of the things which we did was we created a cross-functional team between IMSG being, so if you ask me what is IMSG, is infrastructure management and support. That became the hero, that became one who were taking in terms of, so while a top management and the entire thing, we have to keep all 6,000 branches operational. We were to be there until unless there is something which is, very different kind of a circumstances, that you are in a containment zone and the entire place has got sealed. That's where what we did was we created what you called as a formation of a BCP with the crack team. This is generally a snapshot of, and every day the directors along with the top management was anchoring this entire, what are we doing? Very clearly in lockdown 1.0, which started somewhere around 20th itself, if I have to put it across, we were very clear that our branches needs a different format. So if you ask me, Indians primarily are very, very socially connected, and they keep lesser space vis-a-vis Chinese or any of the Europeans or any other part. But that's where we created a very different infrastructure out there at our branches. We ensured that at each and every branch, we put barricades, we create a distance of, more important was the fact that while you will keep your branches at the front office level, a social distancing part, but what happens to things which are at the back office, or what all exactly are the set of things like air conditioning? What are you doing? So a central air conditioning is far more dangerous than a section. So at our PKC towers, which is 12, we saw that, okay, 11th and 10th floor are the ones which has only cubicles and have separate AC units. So we made that operational while the entire 9 floors were shut down, so that there is no way, no chance that we get infected by air conditioning itself. Printers, I'm giving you very granular details of printers, urinals, all those were the micro stuff which we could. ATM could have been a super spreader because there the metal is quite a lot, and that is where we said that it has to be sanitized twice or thrice. As I heard Dharmesh saying, take the services to home. So we initiated this entire process of, instead of people visiting ATM and creating a bigger problem, we created mobile ATMs and we started sending it to the societies so that we can. It's very, very important that in this entire journey, when you talk about customer and customer first, we have a responsibility to make them learn how digital can help them. And I think one of the biggest thing what we did was we created online influencers. These online influencers were proactively calling upon all those set of customers who are higher in walking to the branches to tell them what iMobile is, what internet banking is all about, so that you can create this social distance proactively than once they come to the branch and teach them. So that's where we tried that high on cash, high on payments, high on government payments. Can we encourage them to go digital than encourage them? And simultaneously, what we did was, one of the biggest thing was our guards. Our security guards are the ones who are the most exposed ones. We tried to station them back so that they don't go back home and then can bring that particular thing. So that was another way in which we tried to take care of them so that they take care of us during the day. So this was certain number of very clear-cut staff precautions, units, also my teller counters generally. So what, if you look at over the last 2 decades, the teller counter where cash used to get disposed were brought down in terms of height. You have to increase the height of those cash counters so that the social distancing is increased. So while one is the distance from, so the height also we increased in order to ensure that we give the best possible service to the client without creating any kind of panic in them. But simultaneously also, what we did was we were very clear about that customer comes first and we have to serve under any circumstances, but take care of employees. And that's where, even when visiting a branch, we tried providing masks to the customers who are not coming with masks. So it's a 8 rupees, 10 rupee item, but please, if you take care of that, what you are doing is you are literally. Then lockdown 2.0, we connected and communicated. We said, you stay back home. As far as your entertainment is concerned, we will create something called as an indoor idol. And we said that you can post your entries and what we were learning was we were just watching what is happening in WhatsApp, what's happening on Instagram, and what's happening. So I think a so, low, mo strategy. So stands for social, low stands for local, mo stands for mobile. on all these platforms, when we were seeing consumer behaving in a manner, we were capturing and providing solutions towards it, which were more making their banking also digital, and also ensuring that from a physical how migration can easily happen. Like medicines, from senior citizen, we tied up with MedLife, we tied up with Practo, doing that particular thing, so that the senior citizens do not go out and then get prone to, they are more prone to this particular kind of thing. Also, we took all our digital and they're right at the top to ensure that customer focus through digital to discourage our brand. I think there are enough and much examples to learn from. So if you have to put it across SARS out there in Southeast Asia led towards Alibaba, and the growth which happened, you all know how exactly from where to where they went. So that's where. And then coming on to corporate social responsibility, I was hearing from Dharmin, the fact that as a group, we are big in terms of, and that's where we proactively co-opt with district administration and police officials to ensure that we are able to give lot amount of sanitizer in I'll say kiloliters, and provide as much as possible, because that will really make, and what we utilized is we have something called as ICICI Bank mask manufacturers. So I think very clearly top management involvement, proactively getting on a morning evening huddle towards it. What we created within the organization was called as town call. So instead of town hall, we created town call and said that we have to stand up like warriors, and banking is an essential service, and that's where we need to go in for the best possible, though we rostered the branch. So on an average, my branch staff will be around 60,000, and then the back-end operations and what you call as call centers and others come in. So out of the 65,000 staff which is in the branches, and then we have around staff which is in sales from home, get what you called as well adapt with conversational skills than selling skills, than negotiating skills. So your conversations are one which have to be really, and we literally as top management took the charge in terms of creating an online huddle to train them on what is called as the best possible conversation skills, so that business moves at the defined pace. And of course, service was primary, and then came what you call sale. We started, so once we have done this, we did rostering, we did what you called as cloud telephony, we created a VPN backend customer service. We also said that if the need be, from our call center, the desktop needs to be placed to the employee's home, might well do that, so that the call center tech support is extended to the customer. Of course, we were not operating at 100%, but we were able to contain in terms of what you called as the damage in terms of not being able to reach to a certain extent by doing this. And I think one of the other things which we did was, instead of employee from far off coming to the workplace or the branch, what we did is we did a remapping of branch staff and allocated branches which were nearest to his home. So whosoever was into rostering, we tried doing lat-long mapping of the individuals and tried to place them. These were certain set of initiatives, and then we used video KYC, central KYC to ensure that the onboarding of customer is seamless and smooth. I think now social distancing becomes the norm. The new normal is this. We all have to rethink the design of our offices. Offices which were known for swanky design, central air conditioning. I think we have now new set of challenges to look at, and completely different way in terms of looking at what you called as sales and distribution with conversational skills than what you called as a face-to-face and things like that. So we are on for a completely new normal. Our offices design, we were amidst this, that the millennial wants a very, very open architecture. we have to rethink on this open architecture versus a cubicle architecture or a sectional architecture. We have to look at set of things which gives more space and helps us in terms of really operating in. But I think it is going to give us good food for thought in times to come. I thought this is what I just wanted to share in terms of how we have gone about and how we are right now. Thinking is work in progress, if you ask me, in terms of how we are going to operate, but definitely digital virtual account management, conversational skills, online influencers, a strong what you called as bias towards using technology in terms of reaching out to the customers are going to be moving at a very, very fast pace. Integrating with certain amount of online in-house entertainment to add consumer value will be the set of things which we are planning to experiment. And similarly, from a real estate perspective, at our branches, because they play a very, very critical role, how to handle cash, how to move that particular cash management system from what you called as from our branches to the doorstep. We are just working on those set of models in terms of giving a new dimension to it. That's from my side, Vinita.
Thank you so much, Pranav. I think that's very insightful, and absolute salutations to everyone in the front line right now in essential services. It's a big risk that all of y'all are taking to keep things going for all of us, and absolute salutations to everyone in the bank who's been doing it even during this time. I must share that in the lockdown, Pranav has first time experienced the new ways of work from home with his infrastructure giving him the first amount of hits before the session. And thank you for working it out with your neighbor and ensuring that you are there on the session. It's been a truly delight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now on Mr. Anshuman magazine. Anshuman is I would say someone that all of us look to when we really want solutions to our work problems, and has been an industry friend for a fairly long amount of time. He goes off as the head of as the chairman and CEO India, Southeast Asia, Middle East and Africa for CBRE. He's been across so he's worked with CBRE for 25 years plus and has been across 50 offices and affiliates across geographies. I don't think there'll be anyone else who would be more equipped to tell us how is it that the world is opening up and coping up currently from lockdown and coming back to normalcy. I would like to call on Anshuman. Thank you so much for being there with us, Anshuman.
Thank you, Vinita. I will be brief. First of all, one of the advantages of this lockdown is, of course, the communications have gone up. There's more learning, which is happening. When you talked about the countries, as you know, every country is at a different stage of the COVID virus. China is coming out of it. Singapore has gone back into it. Middle East, interestingly, had started from weekend lockdowns to a longer lockdown, and they're opening up. India, everybody knows. Every country is taking different in different planning stages. However, it seems like sitting in India that this lockdown is never going to end. It is going to end, obviously. We will be back in the office, and this is the right time to plan and make sure that we can execute well when we get back. If you look at the employees, what we don't realize, one of the learnings was that someone in the US office said, look, we cannot ask our employees to come back to work. We have to invite them back. And that was very alien to me also, frankly, even working in a multinational. I said, look, we're going to say office is going to open up this day, and maybe we will have BCP workings where 50% comes and at a time. But I didn't think of inviting our employees back. And I thought, what does that mean? It really is because employees are anxious that because of all the over information on COVID virus, that if they come back to work again and again socialize, would they catch the virus? So when you're inviting them back, really means that, look, we have taken all the measures to make sure the workplace is safe. So when you come in, we are trying as an organization our best to make sure we keep you safe, and and that you will have a working environment which has all these steps which have been taken, and you will be able to work. We'll be back into action. And I thought that was very alien to our mindset, because normally we treat our employees really well, but we don't think that, think about their anxiousness and their worries to come back again to work. The other thing is, as a company, we manage more than 6 billion square feet of space across the globe. This is office, residential, retail, industrial. So the learning is huge. In India, we manage more than 300 million square feet. And that has given us a huge learning on what is happening as global best practices and what we have learned in India. So one can get the best practices, but India obviously has its own nuances, its own challenges, and we need to take into that account. So as CBRE and across, we have worked in almost 100 cities in India. So we're sitting on huge learning on how it works in India itself. And we would want to bring that in and to make sure when the workplace gets going that we are putting the best possible. Rajesh, who is the expert in this, and I'm gonna just let him speak about this, is part of a global team of CBRE, where we've got people from US, Europe, APAC, a big team like the gentleman before me mentioned about a team they have in India. So we have a global team which Rajesh is part of, where the best practices globally have shared. Besides that, we have tied up with large health organizations, the best in the world, to educational institutions, to the consultants, so that we can really learn from everybody. So we're not saying we know it all. The top hospitals and healthcare education, organizations, and some of the big universities which are working on this we are tied up with them, and so that India will get the best in the world. What is happening, the best practices, as well as learning on how do we, put that in Indian context, so that, everybody gets the benefit. So I will just pass it on to Rajesh, who's been working on it, to share, what we are doing and what we recommend. Thanks. Thank you again.
Sure, Anshuman. Thank you very much. Raka, can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can. I just want the sharing rights, please.
So while you do this, Raka, I must thank Pranav from ICICI Bank for actually setting the context. He actually reminded me of all the other banks that CBRE manages, not only in India, but whole of Asia Pacific. And, he sounded similar to what we are doing and multiple banks that we manage. So Raka, if you can move to the second slide. These are some of the questions that our occupier clients, developers of residential and commercial buildings, and retail developments are asking us. I'll try to address most of them in the presentation, but in case if there are any questions, feel free to write to us, maybe through 𝗙𝗏𝗏, and we can answer them. Moving to next slide, Raka. And like Anshuman mentioned about anxiety, this journey to recovery is highly evolving, but is very fluent. Overall, there is anxiety around news of spread of infection, and thanks to social media, everybody is kind of aware of in terms of what's happening across the country. But how do we handle the social and emotional behaviors? I think the key would be robust communication, which is very critical now than ever. Focus is required to engage all stakeholders in physical and virtual environments. The feedback from all stakeholders will be critical, and we'll have to continue to review the best practices and new ideas that we can adopt in our workplaces. Workforce and customers both will expect continuous and credible assurance that they are living and working in a safe environment. And this is to the point what Anshuman mentioned about anxiety. Inviting them back to the offices. This will be one of the key criteria, and wherein clear safety, health, wellness information will have to be displayed throughout the buildings. You could be in a mall, you could be in a residential building, or you could be in an office building, but this will have to be displayed very clearly to allay any fears that the occupiers may have. A lot is spoken about social distancing. It is basically aimed at reducing physical contact and we are following the Indian government guidelines of 1.8 meters. Singapore, on the other hand, actually taught us not to get complacent when this lockdown gets relaxed. While there is news of lockdown getting relaxed in different phases, but in last few weeks, all of us have got used to new ways of doing things. We are now following social distancing, our focus on hygiene has improved, but once the lockdown is relaxed, we should not go back to our old ways, would be my 2 cents. This would then mean that customers may not flock into shops in retail malls or sit and eat in groups in food courts. We'll have to really, learn from the regional countries in APAC. They'll have to let the brakes off very slow and gradually, and in a thoughtful manner. We'll have to ensure that the right behaviors that we have generated over a few weeks, they stick with us for long. And frankly, China is a great example on how they eased movement across cities once the lockdown was open. And that's our biggest concern, that our labor that is migrated when it comes back, when our employees who have gone back to their hometowns, when they come back, how these measures will then help build trust with our customers. And now let's move into details on business and post-lockdown readiness. Raka, if you can move to the next slide, please. The teams at CBRE have created these playbooks, which includes all processes, best practices, guidelines for restoring effective and safe operations. This includes, like was mentioned earlier, whether it is engineering, soft services, security, or any information relating to employees. We strive to regularly update with any change in government guidelines. And we are very extensively using this playbook for training not only CBRE employees, but the task level service providers, those are the foot soldiers on the facilities. Moving to next slide, Raka. Usage of digital tools, are we all aware that travel will continue to be restricted even within the country in India? And this change can only be compensated by alternate video conferencing technology. And I think this webinar is a very good example of working virtually. And most of us, I'm assuming, are on Zoom calls or any other video conferencing mechanism over the days. Employee experience will be completely redefined post-COVID. All your employees, for them, it will no longer be the size of menu in the cafeteria that will excite them. It will be more than the safety and focus on hygiene and how do you work on them. Automation and voice technology will play a vital role, and all of us will have to work on investments that will be required to be done on these technologies that can be adopted for touchless operations, which apparently will be the key. And maybe Alexa could become our new friend as an interface. And verbal commands will remove the need for physically pushing a button or touching surfaces. There are a lot of, I would say, desi innovations that are currently working on how do we do that. Shopping malls on the other side, while may have merchandise for display, but may have online order and pay options to avoid human interaction. Raka, next slide, please. You may have heard of, there are multiple examples globally wherein robots are used for visitor management, and they can now be used for non-contact temperature measurement. This will obviously avoid any chances of infections. Thermal imaging cameras is another option by which human temperatures can be monitored real-time online. It can actually raise alerts for any abnormal body temperatures. Next slide, Raka. Robotic cleaning, we've been using them in very, very limited manner for lobbies and conference rooms at offices and residences in some cases. My guess is that it is expected to gain more popularity. This demand will then make it more affordable because it's slightly expensive at this point in time. But my assumption is as the demand grows, they'll be able to make it more price sensitive. Touchless facial recognition attendance systems may even replace the biometric systems currently used. More humidifiers can be added to increase relative humidity, which, if taken between 40 to 60%, can reduce chances of spread of virus and bacteria. Next slide. From new technologies that are hitting market, plasma disinfection is a very popular technology in Japan that uses ionized air for killing the pathogens. On the other side, ultraviolet light will be used to disinfect offices. That is increasingly common in hospitals. What it then means is that we are talking about facilities management of the standard of healthcare industry for offices as well. Next, please. Now, though faith has different meaning to all of us, we believe in different faiths. But when I was checking the definition of faith in dictionary, it said, complete trust or confidence in someone or something. Now, this is a role that you and me will have to play with your associates and customers. What it means is that we'll have to be flexible and constantly reviewing the situation and demonstrate to our end customers our eagerness to change. We'll have to make associates and clients aware of the measures initiated by the organizations. We'll have to inspire associates and clients to adopt safe practices through multiple communication channels to give them the feeling that they are in a safe place. And I think that will be the key. We'll also be required to communicate and demonstrate full transparency in our actions. Last but not least, we must show that the owners and corporations are concerned about end users' health during these unprecedented times. And in my guess, that this will be the mantra for future. Go to next slide, Pranav. Next, please. Now, recently, CBRE had conducted a survey, and we found that at that point, 71% of the employees had strong preferences to have better office environments. And I mean, I can't even say that this is the easiest time that will be the most valid in the current situation. Moving to next. As we prepare to start up, there is uncertainty ahead of us, and we'll have to really plan with full confidence. Some of the best practices to consider during reoccupancy phase, while we are readying our facilities to welcome our employees and customers, could be installing hand sanitizers at multiple places, or maybe creating temperature isolation rooms, and even using more disinfectants. We'll also need to prepare to disinfect and restore utilities which may not have been used for a few weeks now. We don't have to only plan for sourcing of the PPEs, but more importantly, create processes for their disposal. This is actually equivalent to handling biohazard waste and needs special attention. Careful considerations and customized plan, if not carefully planned, can really fuel second wave of infections. And I think that is the biggest worry that we have. And all of this can definitely be achieved through proper communication programs. Next, please. From an air circulations in offices perspective, we are obviously going by the guidelines which is recommended by ISHRAE and ASHRAE standards. While there is no conclusive evidence that COVID is an airborne disease, but whatever we are doing will qualify as preventive measures. We need to keep a close watch, monitor the indoor air quality more than what we were doing earlier. And our recommendation is to have maximum fresh air ventilation in all closed environments. It could be offices, or it could be even malls for that matter. We also recommend that we educate and encourage acceptance of having higher temperatures, higher than 24 degrees. Currently, if you were to go in any office premise, it will be 23 plus minus 1, for example. We are now talking about making it higher than 24. And like I said earlier, we'll have to have relative humidity between 40 to 70%, which will then hopefully not let the bacteria and virus to survive. I'll move to next, please. As a mechanical engineer myself, I know, and some of you who are engineers on the call will understand the importance of abiding by protocols. for electrical, HVAC, plumbing systems. And as an example, the facilities that have not been used will have to now replenish stale water from chillers and condenser circuits. And also from an fire alarm systems, how do we normalize those systems so that we can clear and all trouble alarms. Next, please. As recommended by MHA, we need to continuously screen temperature of people entering and exit our premises. We need to have a documented visitor policy. Entry of personnel who may be unwell are actually a health risk for people who are in those buildings or even customers in shopping centers, for example. It will be advisable to avoid additional visitors entering offices or residential buildings, basically to discourage movement of people unless, till the time the situation normalizes. CBRE also recommends to have declaration forms for visitors and employees, basically to track their travel history, which can then be used for contact tracing in case if there was any spread of infection. Next, please. We heard of social distancing. I think social distancing is the only recognized way of stopping the virus to spread. Creating different kind of markings, will definitely help maintain appropriate distancing and can be used as safe zones. Now, whether you're making those markings in your lift capsules or you're making in cafeterias where more and more people go, or even entering to shops in a shopping mall, or even parking areas for that matter. So we need to keep our distances there. Next, please. Now, all these years, our aim was to densify offices, but now is the time in terms of figuring out how do we de-densify to create the physical distancing that we now need to have. Till now, our current practice has been to do more with less space. But to avoid community transmissions, we'll really need to adopt segregated approach in team formations. Anshuman mentioned in the beginning about split teams. Basically, from a concept perspective, split teams A and B is done mainly to isolate one group from another to avoid contamination of space. These teams then would alternate. For example, team A would work in office and team B will work remotely, and then they would change week on week. If you see the blue and red colors, between one team also we can have, like the blue and pink, for example, that you're looking at, could be dedicated areas for flexibility and ability to track. It's actually important to keep teams separated in order to minimize the risk, because in case if, one person was infected, there's a possibility that a larger workforce can get infected at any point in time. Next, please. Now, office spaces will have to be re-looked at, maybe altered in order for people to feel safe. This possibly could mean a reversal of open office trend. We may have to consider suspending at least temporarily hot desking for fixed seating arrangements. This is basically to ensure that in case if there was any spread, you could trace the contact. Some ways, as you see on the screen, is how workstations can be de-densified. And in my view, one easy practical way is to remove chairs from alternate workstations. Signages obviously will be the best options to guide people to follow the protocols. And you can then indicate new capacities. For example, if it's an 8-seater room, how do you make it 4-seater? So you can put posters at various places for educating employees. In future, in my view, safety will be inherently based in the design in the long term, while whatever we are talking about are short and mid-term measures, but the future designing will obviously take care of what we are talking about. Next, please. While as service providers or owners or customers, you may be planning, for example, to ramp up cleaning protocols to make your sites ready for employees to come in. But it is very critical at this point that the employees and customers will also have to change their behaviors on how they will use these buildings in future. The new normal will be different, and owners actually rely on all the individuals to protect themselves and in turn protect others. So it's not that they're just doing for themselves, they're doing for the whole community. However, there's also a possibility which is spoken about, that there may be lack of trust among people. People may not trust their own colleagues in case if they are carriers in some form. And there are examples from China, for example, wherein a real-time record of temperature is used as a formal proof of sound health, wherein there are apps. It can tell you what is your body temperature for last 2 weeks or 4 weeks to at least certify that you are healthy enough to be moving around. In offices, we can provide alcohol wipes so that they can sanitize their workspaces before occupation. We can disinfect all the workplaces and common areas, which will be the key for personal safety and then to avoid transmission of these viruses. However, the change that will now happen is that the sanitization will have to be done frequently for all frequently touched surfaces. What we would plan earlier as 1 shift or 2 shifts now will have to be frequently sanitized every couple of hours. We'll have to reinforce good hygiene practices. And as you see, there will be multiple touchless solutions for washrooms, for example. But while we are talking about hand washing as a preventive measure, we foresee risk of overcrowding in washrooms and coming in close proximity to people due to smaller areas. So we'll have to figure out, how do we execute this on ground? Next, please. Transportation is another area. Most of the employees and contractors may have to avoid public transport, especially at peak times, because that's a high risk and potential source of infection. On the other hand, the vehicles are provided by owners or corporations used for transporting their employees should not be allowed to function more than 30 to 40% capacity. This will obviously increase cost, but this will be, from a social distancing perspective, one of the ways in transportation. While we'll have to disinfect on the completion of every trip, but we'll have to completely sanitize vehicles once every week. There are some examples which we have seen in Singapore and China, wherein they are creating a physical barrier between the passengers and drivers by placing a PVC sheet. It's a very basic idea, but this is how they are doing to create the barrier. Next slide, please. A large part of our business also depends on residential sites. Next, please. And, we all know there are 3 universal forces: earth, water, and air, which is a huge responsibility for people like you and me, basically to drive our sustainability initiatives. But then there's a 4th force that also plays a critical role in ensuring success on this front. And this 4th force in the residential segment is the Condominium Association, the so-called RWA. Now, RWA are now represented by younger professionals. It is no more people who are retired, but these are younger professionals who are wanting to contribute, and they're also wanting to spend the right price to get value and higher service levels similar to what they are used to getting in their own offices. In fact, I was talking to one client, and I was surprised that, there were comments that occupants were making that now that they're seeing work from home as a new normal, they're now exploring ideas like, wanting to change one closet to a working area, or maybe even reconfigure parts of the house to be more functional work from home. And while, I'm trying to be on this webinar, I'm just trying to figure out if my dog doesn't come from behind, or maybe my kitchen noise doesn't come into the webinar. So moving to next. Now, while most of us have been working from home, but unlike offices, hundreds of my colleagues have sacrificed their personal well-being and have preferred to stay closer to their customers in the condominiums that CBRE is managing across the country. However, there is a flip side as well. Sometimes our task level staff had to also face love and affection of police forces while coming to work. They've taken charge and are now instrumental in interacting with local governing bodies, and we're basically ensuring all the guidelines that are issued by various state authorities and also the central government. Most of our sites now we're preferring to use infrared thermometers, basically to screen proper temperatures at entry and exit. However, during these times, when we all know that people are not able to move within the cities, we are managing cleaning and specific sanitization procedures with skeleton teams, and that's something wherein people will have to understand that how in different times we have to react differently. Moving to next slide. I mean, since we manage multiple facilities in residential, we've also had chances wherein there were positive COVID cases in the buildings managed. And how do you, communicate properly and handle anxieties of fellow residents is one challenge that we have faced. Groceries, Pranav also spoke about. They were all planned, made available. I have examples of multiple complimentary emails coming from senior citizens on how my colleagues helped them, supplied groceries to their residences. And of course, this was not part of the contract. Now, what has happened is in this process, by doing all these measures, they've actually built trust with the customers of our customers. In a nutshell, I would like to say that they have done everything for the residents so that they are able to work from home. Next slide, please. Ideas that you are seeing on screen are basic innovations. There are site staff have come up with very limited resources available on site. In my view, this is truly the Indian jugaad, and I'm quite sure that once we come out of this lockdown, there will be specific measures to create these jugaads into right innovations. Next, please. I'm quite sure, and I did speak in between a few times, that this lockdown has given us feeling of helplessness and has created anxiety. Most of us, at least I have not gone out of my house for last many weeks. But during these times, our colleagues came up with innovative ideas on engaging between the communities we manage. Whether it is celebrating birthdays on a common platform or even conducting talent and comedy shows, which basically gives smiles on the faces of the residents. In one case, I heard that they were playing Tombola through WhatsApp group. I'm actually tempted to play next time, and we'll figure out how it works out. Next, please. Now, for our residential business, we have created these playbooks, with COVID procedures. We are reviewing it periodically through our subject matter experts, so that any change that are floated by the government are incorporated on the sites. And this is a Bible that we're using for most of our clients. Next slide, please. Now, from our cleaning protocols perspective, obviously, we have now redefined focus on sanitization and frequencies for cleaning. And like I said in the beginning, we have to do this at this point in time with skeleton teams, but when the new teams comes in, they are then trained on these sanitization procedures. And obviously, depending upon high traffic areas or low traffic areas, you are then classifying them in terms of how they have to be cleaned and when they have to be cleaned. Next, please. Now, unlike commercial buildings, in residential projects, most of the engineering equipment, although are in use, but these are the times that we'll have to train our technicians in using the right PPEs, whether it is a mask or gloves, using hand sanitizers, and then disposing them properly. Most of us know that this is not something that we are culturally used to, and we'll have to work on that as well. Next, please. Now, whatever I say, frankly, is less. Next, please. The entire CBRE family is thankful to various government bodies, healthcare workers, police and task forces, and essential services providers who've actually gone beyond their call of duty to make life easy for most of us. And I wouldn't want to not thank Pranav and his team as well for keeping ATMs open for us wherever we had to withdraw money. Next, please. I'm getting countless appreciation mails from residents and developers. That only demonstrates, in my view, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. And I think that's the mantra that our colleagues are following. Next, please. Next, please. Yeah. The facility managers are our real heroes who have made CBRE proud. In true sense, they've actually lived the true meaning of the 4 letters of CBRE, which, by the way, I have coined that myself, which says contributions beyond regular expectations. So that will be my presentation. I'm happy to answer any queries after the webinar, and 𝗙𝗚𝗏 can give you our email ID. Thank you, Vinita. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pandit. I would now like to call on Mr. Prashant P.V, who basically is part of Shapoorji Constructions, and I think Shapoorji is doing a fabulous job right now in terms of taking care of the laborers on site right now, and it'll be interesting to hear his insights of how labor force is being managed, especially the psyche around it. I would also like to just request Mr. Anshuman and Mr. Rajesh Pandit to just continue, because post everyone speaks, there's a little bit of a Q&A because we have some questions that all our people need to know. So that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinita. It's indeed a pleasure for me to be part of this webinar and share my thoughts. And we are a construction company, and we are the front end of the project delivery system. And over the past few weeks, honestly, we are experiencing a new normal, which is not the normal business for us. And I would consider this to be like a dress rehearsal for us before the actual lockdown opens up. The status as of now, we have almost 50 to 60% of the sites fully, occupied by the laborers. It's only 50 to 60%. So indirectly, we are actually managing social distancing by that method. But post this lockdown, and our approach to this whole thing has been, we will have a 4-pronged approach to looking at the entire problem. The 4-pronged approach, first is engineering, where we understand what are the domain requirements, what are the compliant requirements, what are the requirements at specific sites. We engineer a solution, make the SOPs, make the protocols, make the rules and regulations, take all precautions and preparedness for arriving at the right solution for each site specifically. As we speak, we have around 160 sites running across the country. Specifically within Bombay, we have around 17 sites. And just to tell you the scale of operation, we have around 3,500 laborers right now at all the sites only in Bombay. And this, I'm saying, is only around 50 to 60% of the total strength at each site in that sense. Now, the 4-pronged approach, I was saying, first is the engineering solution that we arrive at. Then, most important is educating the solution to all the stakeholders. And mind you that we will be handling the lowest strata of society while educating them on the various pros and cons and everything. So we need to really handle them with care, because there is a lot of misinformation and miscommunication which is happening there. Let me tell you some examples. There are people, when we undertake, let us say, thermal scanners, there are people who have paracetamol in anticipation and come, so you will be having a false positive or false negative in that sense. We need to even handle things like that. So education is a very important element in the whole process. Continuously reinforcing it with confidence building, motivation talk, and constantly monitoring the performance at each site. The third one is the enforcement, which we need to see by deploying people to check, review, monitor, track, upgrade, etc. for the performance at each site. The fourth of the 4-pronged approach is evolve, because we have not yet seen the full detail of this COVID pandemic. So we need to evolve continuously, because we would not know what is going to hold for us in the coming tomorrow. So these are the four-pronged approaches. Now, obviously, our engineering solutions are primarily to see that we maintain social distancing at sites, provide face masks, gloves, hand sanitization, etc. Primary access, as we all know, for the infection is through the eyes, ears, and mouth. Educate the people on that. Transmission, I always say it is very unintentional. Nobody comes and transmits this disease intentionally to anybody. And like I said earlier, that tackling misinformation and misunderstanding is the biggest challenge. Now I will ask the team to run the slides, and I will talk along for the various steps that we have taken at these sites. So if Charmi, if you can play those slides. Yeah. So starting, I'm taking the very, very basic things. This is not the end all of it. So we start with temperature screening or thermal scanning of all the people. We conduct toolbox talks, motivate the people, and constantly engage with them. The challenge that we have here, because of the various rumors which are happening in the social media, we have this constant fear that people want to run away from the labor camps. And that's a big challenge, because it will not only cause problems to us, but to the public at large. So these are one of the challenges that we have. So we constantly engage with them, give motivational talks. We even have a situation in the current situation where people from their homes speak through, let us say, the Microsoft Teams, and these are broadcast at the site through microphones. We have been able to do that successfully. So we have motivational talks not only at the site team, but from the head offices and the regional offices, to encourage people to stay and build confidence in them, because their biggest worry, first and foremost, is the lack of work and lack of money, which we also ensure by giving them the timely payment, ensuring food and other essential supplies at site from time to time. Can you move to the next slide, please? Hello, Charmi, next slide. Yeah. So starting off with basic things like, these are all facts and figures actually happening at site, because I'm just not telling what we propose to do. These are things which we are presently performing at site at various places. Distribution of face mask, sanitation kits, also keep kirana store kind of things. In some places within the sites where the site logistics does not permit us, we have tied up with the local shops, extended credit to all the workers there, so they can go and pick up the essentials from there. While doing that also, we need to ensure that only one of the whole crowd goes, one person from the whole crowd goes across, not the whole crowd moving out on the streets. So there are restrictions at the gate, which allows specific people who will go pick up these rations and essentials and bring back to the site. In most cases, we are trying to provide food. There has been a government initiative also on this, which is called the Atal Ahar Yojana, which is not free lunch. Basically, it's a subsidized lunch, which is by the government initiative. At the ₹5 per lunch, we are able to provide them. So we are making facilities and arrangement for getting all these lunches at, this of course requires a BOCW registration of the labor camp and the people to be eligible for this kind of lunch. So rather than making them cook and create an unhygienic situation, wherever possible, we try to get them prepared food, in the absence of which we always provide rations to them and facilitate them to not move out of the site. And even if there are ingress into site by people, we stagger the entry. We keep them in isolation rather than in groups. These are some of the steps that we are taking. Yeah, next slide, please. Disinfection, which was covered by, I think, Rajesh also. So vehicle disinfection. We have got an emergency response team at each site. Only they are allowed to move outside of the site. Otherwise, most of the team, including the safety, including the labor, are all housed within the site in that sense. And we get these people, whoever has to travel outside on compulsion, they go out and come in these specific vehicles, not using public transport. When they come back, again, we segregate them. We don't allow them to move into the site in one go. We socially distance them even while they are traveling. We also have isolation rooms at our sites, which are the photographs at the bottom. Next. The next slide, please. We have doctors visiting regularly and fumigation in sight of all the facilities within the site. Next, please. Apart from the regular doctors that we have, we also try to create awareness camps and health checkup by visiting doctors and paramedics, which we have arranged at all sites. So these people come and additionally reinforce our measures within the site so that nobody is untraced and nobody is not checked through for any symptoms of any of these kind of illness. Yeah, next please. We have also had during the last 34 days, if I were to be more precise, people from the government, whether it is the labor department, whether it is the police department, or from the medical fraternity, people visiting us, and it is reinforcing our thought that we are doing the right thing. And then they have had very good comments on the progress that we have made on all the fronts at sites. Yeah, next please. Yeah, this is for the measures that we have taken at site, but let me also tell you that we have not yet seen the full-blown effect of this because there are a lot of unknowns still which we need to fathom. Right now, like I said, the strength at each of the labor camp is around 50 to 60%, plus they are restricted in their activities within the labor camp. We have still not seen them when they come onto the site. What are the challenges which we need to evolve as we progress across? Plus, there will be, obviously when workers work along with each other, there could be a proximity less than the designated 6 feet. We would not know what are the challenges we will face then, but I'm sure that we need to evolve with solutions at that appropriate time. The other challenges are we do not really know what is the effect of temperature change, season change, climate change. So we have still not gone there. The monsoons are around the corner. So I really don't know whether we will be able to expect what will happen at that time and be prepared for that. But all the while, like I said, we need to evolve ourselves to a situation where we are able to handle that. Obviously, we do not know whether there is a second wave which can happen. And we have really not seen what will happen when the workers work in groups and the external visitors or suppliers, vendors come in. So some of the measures which are already anticipating is whenever any stock of material comes to site, prevent to the extent possible them to be used immediately, because keep them in stock at the stockyard or storeroom for a period of 2 days so that whatever anticipated effect of that can be decimated. Second, prevent the interaction, that is very close proximity interaction of the vendors or visitors with the laborers who are at site. These are the other steps that we are taking. Third, even when the post-lockdown situation, we are going to prevent use of public transport, because probably that's one place where we anticipate there could be a lot of interfaces and there could be transmission happening. So these are some of the things that we have said. Apart from these, whatever my co-speakers have spoken, a lot of that I would not want to repeat, but I'm saying that those are the steps that we are also taking at our offices. And some of the new normal we will have is, if we had the luxury of a driver driving me to office, probably that may not exist in the future, at least for some time to come. And even if they are being used, obviously we will have to keep them under close control, because I would not know where my driver would go. So we are having provisions like rooms where the drivers will be housed, and they will not be allowed to go out from there, because finally it is the monkey man thinking, so we could not prevent what he can do post he leaves his, call of duty. So we'll have to be very careful of the consequences, what will happen when he goes off from the work, and he could be carrying the virus back to us. So these are some of the few steps, and I would end my talk with this, and willing to, more than happy to answer the question and answers as they happen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Prashant, and thank you all the three panelists. I think everyone is extremely enlightened to see these PPTs and to see the work that everyone has been doing to keep their employees and laborers safe. I'm going to start off with Pranav. Pranav, managing 1 lakh people coming to work every day and also taking care of their well-being, have there been any situations where you all have had to jump in and had a COVID patient, and how did you guys take care of that patient, and what kind of measures were taken, including contact tracing and for the teams to kind of get up on speed on that?
Yeah. And partners and then youth support staff have had 2 incidences, and one of our sales officer, which on 5th March, was found positive somewhere around 14th of April. So the gap of around 16 odd days. However, the branch which he has visited, since we have a very, very strong, so while in terms of attendance and other things, we generally have this card through which one swipes it in the branch and then comes to know. But since we have put so much amount of restriction, we enabled our digital attendance system, and on what is called as Universe on the Move at ICICI Bank, we could figure out, trace which all systems he had access to and what all things. We were able to quarantine him, family, put him into what we call Hills Hospital. The entire, and I take my BCP team, which is the top management team, got into action. And then what I said, the heroes are our IMSG, which is infrastructure management group, along with HR, got into action, got in quarantine, placed him into the hospital. Good part is today as we are, and he is being tested now negative. So that's where, this is something. The second case, which was a guard at our branch, was found, what we called as his son. We tried to figure out that he had a temperature on a day, and we could figure out. And that's where, again, since we are doing a morning, evening reporting of case, the branch has to give updates. We were able to, again, contain it to the extent of 2. And simultaneously, what we did was our entire staff was told that just in case if you have even a single case in your building or you fall into a containment zone, just let us know. And that is where we will ensure that he is not part of any of the rostering which we are doing, a branch or the corporate office. So these were things. So if you ask me, with a 10 lakh touch points, which have come down significantly to an extent of 4-5 lakh, but it is still 4-5 lakh. We have had only 2 instances over the last 45-50 days span.
That's nice to know. Can I just bring in Anshuman? Anshuman, China is coming back. It's and Singapore has a lockdown, and I mean has extended their lockdown. How have offices managed, I would say, confidence in employees to bring them back? Because I think there's a lot of fear for anyone to kind of put themselves out and risk that entire space to come into office. How do you manage people's confidence to get them back to work and say everything is safe, don't worry, we are here for you?
I think, first of all, like I mentioned a bit earlier also, is that we follow BCP practices, which is business continuity practices, where even if the lockdown, and this is what we plan to do in India also, that even if the lockdown opens up and the government allows one day for everybody to get back to work, we will in Singapore, and this is what's happening in China, that they will will only allow half of the staff to come at a time, and so to give them comfort that it will be really, they will have continue to get the social distancing. They will be only half the people, at least if not less, at a time. Number 2 is, of course, giving confidence to them that we are following everything in possible. So even in Singapore and China, it's and coming to India also, that before you enter any building, be it a factory, office, residential, in some cases, there are all the precautions from disinfectant tunnels to temperature checks to inside, like Rajesh mentioned, cleaning, deep cleaning, all kinds of things which are going to happen to make sure that, and everybody wears a mask, gloves wherever, wherever applicable, even things like, the meeting rooms. I mean, it's as simple as, just making sure that the meeting rooms are not utilized the way they were utilized before, where everybody just gets in and sits there. And so all of this put together, and communicating is the key, because a lot of times what happens is you may do all this, are you communicating? And one of the things, this is great that we're having this call now, so that, like, I'd mentioned earlier that, we need to plan properly to make sure that we execute it to perfection when offices open, and not wait for that time. And what we are doing everywhere, be it China or Singapore, making sure there's communication happening, a little bit use of technology. In Singapore, as you know, every employer, everybody has a app which the Singapore government has connected every citizen, and every morning there's an update. We're doing similar for offices, for our own employees, that they get an update regularly, and what the company is doing, what the government is doing, what else precautions they need to do, any questions they have. So communication, and transparent communication is the key. And regular, consistent communication is the key to give employees the comfort that the organization, even the state, in this case, the municipality, whatever, they're doing their best to keep them safe. And hopefully that'll encourage them to come back.
No, I agree completely. I think communication is key, and the more one communicates, the better it is, and that's very important in times. I'm just going to get Rajesh back online, because I think everyone's extremely impressed by the type and work that CBRE has been doing, even right now in for their sites. How has it been managing across so many sites, in terms of your personal experience, in terms of, it must be quite a task to be constantly connected and constantly ensuring to the last T people are well taken care of, because it's a daunting task to have everything going on all the time.
Vinita, thanks for asking this question. My boss is on the call, so it's time to impress him. I must admit that video conferencing has really helped us, and we are constantly in touch with our colleagues. And like I mentioned in the beginning, while quite a few of our colleagues are working from home, but a lot of our colleagues are also working from sites. So we have a strong leadership across all geographies, and we are constantly communicating with them. And I'm myself talking to most of them either through WhatsApp or through Zoom calls to keep them motivated.
That's nice. How do you, Rajesh, just another question. So I think a lot are a little quizzing on the fact that how do we keep office spaces going, and how do we keep our workforce in terms of the sanitization and all? Would you also recommend that going forward, some people would, out of their housekeeping staff, staying within the site premises until there's a lot of attention to get a complete cure to this?
Like Anshuman also mentioned, see, the fact is that there is a lot of uncertainty around the COVID situation. Nobody is really sure of, like I said, nobody is even aware of whether it is airborne or not. So what we need to do is, we can only do that much, that we stay, we disinfect all the office premises, we communicate to all the people who are involved in this. To give you my example, and I think Prashant mentioned about going without a driver, and I'm constantly calling my driver and asking him in case if he's roaming around his house or not. So I think it will be more about communicating, and my guess is that a lot of us have understood that it's not an easy situation to be in. So more and more communication to more and more people will hopefully help us come out of that anxiety.
Okay. Thanks so much, Rajesh. I'm going to just bring in Mr. Prashant on. Mr. Prashant, a lot of people are asking, how is it that you plan on restarting sites and getting supplies? I think that's $1 million question right now.
Yeah. So let me answer this in a particular way. the government has declared orange, green and red zones. So in that sense, the scaling back to normalcy, if I were to put it that way, this grading of the country by itself into so many zones district wise is also going to help. So you're not going to, in turn of a switch, you are not going to mobilize fully. So this is also a very helpful fact. I'm not advocating extension of lockdown, but at least the pressures and the challenges that we will face when we will come back from the lockdown will be studied. Then you can modify, correct yourself, and then go for a full-fledged operation. I'm also seeing a lot of question and answers which are coming that how are we handling the ramp up of labor? Let me just tell you, we feel that there are going to be two challenges. First is to retain the labor who are already in your existing camps. Despite paying them money, they seem to be in prison. I'm just narrating their experience, which I'm saying. So all of them, once the trains and whatever transport mechanisms are going to be opened up, I think all of them are going to rush back to their hometowns. That brings in a new challenge, which we are not yet able to answer as we speak. That how is it that we are going to handle that shortage of people, plus the onset of monsoon, which is also a climatic situation which is going to disturb your work. So through this webinar, I will also say that all my clients, or whether it is government, private, institutions, etc., I think we have to live with this new normal that productivity is not going to be the same. The price at which the work will get done is also not going to be the same, because people are talking that your office, if you're renting out 1,000 square feet office and you are planning to house 5 people, now suddenly you want, or I'm saying if you're housing 10 people, now you need to house 5 people. The rent is going to be divided by 5 people. So these are the new normal. I'm not sure that whether all of this is going to come into your building norms in that sense. If we find a cure, I have another opinion about this. If we find a cure and a solution, then a lot of these can be discounted and diluted also, in my opinion. Yeah. So your answer to the question as to how will the labor come back? Honestly, we also do not have the answers, but we are trying our best to retain the 50 or 60% labor strength that we have right now at sites, encouraging them, paying them on time, giving food, making them comfortable. But like I said, their mind is theirs, so they can at any time choose to go back. Yeah.
No, I agree. I agree completely with you. I actually will put all 4 of you all on the spot right now, and one closing comment or one closing, I would say, remark that you want to tell everyone listening to you guys right now in terms of what they should practice, or one thing that you feel in this lockdown has really changed the way you look at work going forward. Pranav, can we start with you?
So my take is that if you're an employee, just learn a new skill. And I think this entire WebEx, video conferencing, the kind of meetings which we have been doing has kept all our sensory organs working. So generally sitting in a boardroom and doing a meeting, we may get indulged into a mobile phone call, WhatsApp exchange. But I think this is really playing a far more stronger, and I've seen my employees giving better productivity. So my take is that
Nice.
just learn new skill, and especially whatever can be digital, as well as what you call as we should be very thankful to the fact that what space we have, we need to keep it very, very hygiene, and we need to ensure that nobody gets infected who comes in contact with us.
Okay. Anshuman, can we get some words of wisdom from you?
Well, hardly wisdom, but I would say that, one thing what this whole COVID-19 is going to do, I feel, is get people to become humble, because I think, especially the younger generation, I would say, or it could be everybody, why pick up the younger generation, that, India's been seeing, at least in the cities, a lot of growth, etc. And we sort of forgot that things normally in life just don't go at a constant positive, and everything, will be growing every year in perpetuity. These things happen in life. So it's humbling. It's also not taking things for granted. And most important, that we need to be prepared for something like this, or, some incident to happen where, which is out of our control. So I think this is a great learning. The biggest positive out of COVID-19 going forward would be that hopefully we'll be better prepared for bad times. Make sure that when the good times are there, we don't take them for granted. And that itself will help us hopefully improve our health infrastructure, our digital or communication infrastructure, and we will value, and the most important thing I think is people will be more grateful and value what they have.
Sounds really nice. Rajesh, what would you want to tell us?
No, I think we'll have to definitely accept the new normal. I saw a lot of chats where people are saying, how will we do it? How will we not do it? The fact is, there's a new normal and we'll have to accept that. And I'll go back to my quote that I used earlier. When the going gets tough, the tough gets going.
Mr. Prashant, last words from you?
Yeah. I think others have spoken, so you have left me with little choice. But I'm a very India optimistic guy. Yeah. So while the whole world may go into recession, I believe that India may not go into recession. Yeah. So like how others have said, maybe learning new skills, new methods of working, and we are very innovative in our own way. So the IT sector could go into, finding out solutions for how you can have contactless transactions. That is one. The construction industries could go into more mechanization and more productive kind of output now that labor is going to be scarce by this. I'm not saying by this as a specific event, but also generally the labor was becoming scarce. So we'll have to become more less labor intensive and more mechanized working. Plus, it could also lead to more modern methods of construction and, which can be more prefab and more factory-built solutions could come out of this as a outcome of this pandemic in that sense. So I'm very hopeful that India will take these lessons forward, not that this is the end of it, and hope that things happen for the best in the future, for India as a country. Thank you.
That sounds really nice. Now I will call on Mr. Rajiv Jain to give the vote of thanks for this wonderful session.
Yeah, thank you so much, Benita. Well, I really thank all the speakers. Thank you so much for enlightening us on the new normal and the social distancing today, which is of key importance. Special thanks, Pranav Mishra, for giving key information on how cross-functional team offices are working, online influencers, and customer connect on digital which is really, really important today. ICICI is managing almost 1 lakh employees and 7 lakh ATM visitors currently. And also small things like, how shutting down central AC is of most important at current times. Special thanks to Anshuman, CBRE, for sharing learning from across 100 cities and 6 billion office spaces worldwide. Thank you so much, Anshuman. Rajesh from CBRE, thank you so much for again throwing key importance of how they made the playbook for employees, and how importance of touchless operation and technology is playing part in the current world. Also, robotic cleaning, which is expensive, but that's the future, and how densifying offices is of key importance in today's time. Finally, Prashant, thank you so much for coming from Shapoorji, Pallonji, who's managing almost 160 sites across India and 3 lakh laborers, and how their 4-cone approach, is really, helping them keep the current times under control, which is engineering, education, and enforcement. Also isolation rooms at site and doctor on site for 24/7, and much more light thrown by Prashant on how site can really work in this current times. Thank you so much, everybody. And finally, thank you all the 1400 plus developers who registered for the current webinar. Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks.